Hello, students. This is a video presenting the information from Wednesday and part of Thursday's lesson plan. Just walking you through what we did in class and giving you the tools necessary so that you can complete this work on your own while you are gone or when you get back from binationals. So our goal is to define universal ideas in relationship with short stories and poetry. Over the weekend, you were asked to read The Interpreter of Maladies and answer a few questions in regards to that short story. The questions, were related to what is a malady, what are the maladies presented in the text, as well as what does the text say about immigration. So we started class sort of throwing around some universal ideas about maladies or sicknesses, emotional sickness, how love can be a sickness, and also talking about immigration and the impact of culture and cultural changes through the generations in relationship to the story. And that sort of gave us some groundwork or a foundation to begin the activity that they had in Google Classroom that you also have. You'll see in Google Classroom an activity, a digital worksheet that says The Interpreter of Maladies Poetry. And because the task is to connect ideas from the Interpreter of Maladies to a specific piece of poetry. So in class, when you guys open up the document, you'll actually have already filled out what we engaged in as a class, sort of as a model example. So I played the students a poem called Scars, and you can watch the poem yourself here if you just click on the link. And we talked about what is the theme of love that Rudy Francisco is developing in his poem, Scars. We talked about what he says about love, how a love can cause pain, how love can be hurtful, and ultimately came up with a theme that we saw in the poem that we also could connect to the book, to the short story. Our theme was the wrong love can result in irrational behavior. And then through discussion, we pulled moments from the story, evidence from the book, all that you see here, Mr. and Mrs. Das getting together young, how they were disconnected. We see that disconnect and how she refused to take family photos, how there was no affection towards the children. I was seen in the bathroom scene, as well as evidence of her irrational behavior. Not only the affair, but also telling Mr. Capasi, the tour guide, about the affair. And then we looked to the poem to say, okay, if this is the theme that we said links this short story and this poem together, we need to find evidence of the wrong love can result in irrational behavior in the poem. And so we pulled some evidence from the poem. You'll have to watch the poem in its entirety, so please do click on the link and watch the poem. There is a couple of curse words, so I warn you in advance, but the overall poem itself gave us a lot of evidence to work towards that theme. So we did that as a class and then ultimately moved to our commentary. So what, this happened in the story, and so what, these were lines from the poem. We got to this. In the short story, the evidence above shows the wrong love because their lack of affection towards their own children highlights their disconnect as a family. Mrs. Das' disconnection and discontent with her life leads to acting impulsively by having an affair, and her continued illogical behavior is seen in telling a complete stranger about her affair, emphasizing how little guilt she carried. And then we further wanted to develop that same theme in the poem. Likewise, in the poem Scars, the line referring to oxygen in a gas chamber demonstrates an unhealthy love as it indicates almost suicidal love. Without her, he felt he would die. This love led to illogical behavior when he shows aggression towards his lover and her new partner. The imagery of smallpox and punching in the throat are both aggressive and illogical, as these actions would do nothing to heal his pain. So we threw out ideas and wrote this together. You see there's quite a few typo here and a typo here, but the idea was just to model. You have to comment on the evidence you choose. If you're linking these two texts to this theme, the wrong love can result in irrational behavior, select your evidence that you can comment on in answering how both those two texts produce the same idea that the wrong love can result in irrational behavior. So then we moved into doing it as teamwork, where they watched another poem called Unforgettable. The text for both of these poems is also provided on Google Classroom. You'll see that there's a document that has both of the poems written out, but you also can watch it here on YouTube. And we came up with a class theme. We talked about what is something that we see is communicated in this poem that we could also argue is in the Interpreter of Maladies. And so this is the theme we came up with, how assimilating to another culture can cause a loss of identity and roots. And so the next task for them and the task for you guys would be to find the evidence of how assimilating to another culture can cause a loss of identity and roots in moments from the story, as well as figurative language, rhyme, tone shifts, or anything else from the poem. And then commenting on how what you found, both in the story and in the poem, ultimately link to the overarching idea that assimilating to another culture can cause a loss of identity and roots. So here for this team practice, you've actually been given the theme. You've been given the poem to work with and the theme. For the final exit practice, which is individual, you do it all entirely on your own. You select your own poem, come up with your own theme, provide evidence both from the story and the poem of your selection, and comment on both. So it's the same exact process, except you're not given the poem and the theme. You're actually selecting your own poem and finding your own theme. This for the students in my class is due Friday. For you folks, the activities that you're going to be doing that you're missing while you're gone are all just due before you return on Monday. So please make sure that you've watched this video and you've emailed me with any questions. Again, I'll go through it one more time. You will access this document in Classroom. When you access yours, this will actually already be filled out because we did it as a class together, sort of as the model. So you'll have the ideas that we generated as a class. You'll see how we created the commentary. You'll go to the team practice, which you'll get to benefit from the theme that we came up with as a team, the universal idea. And then you'll provide the evidence from this particular poem, Unforgettable. The text you can find online as well in Google Classroom, as well as evidence from the interpreter of Maladies, commenting on both. And then last but not least, the individual assessment would be doing this same exact process again with a poem of your choice, as well as a theme that you create that can be connected to both your selected poem and the interpreter of Maladies. Please email me if you have any questions. Hope you guys are doing well in binationals. I will be sending you one other video at the end of the week, so be on the lookout for that. But since we've already started this activity, I wanted to go ahead and send it to you now. Enjoy.